Good morning. A little early today. That's okay. You know, they always say that the early bird gets the worm, but what they don't tell you is that the early worm gets eaten. I think I made that up, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it, not being the most punctual. Wow. Still waking up, folks. Not being the most punctual person in the world. I kind of like that. I hope everybody's having a wonderful morning. I'm feeling a lot better. You may notice I'm kind of sounding a little more like myself. I am feeling significantly better. Monday, I was not in good. I wasn't in bad shape. I was just feeling a little under the weather. Hi, Pearl Center. Good to see you. I was just saying I'm feeling much better. I was having some congestion earlier this week. I know Monday was a fun show, but I was having a hard time. You know, what's up, Steve? Good to see you, buddy. Nice seeing you this weekend. How's it going, Pam? Good to see you. Good morning. People are rolling in slowly but sure. Redneck Economics, good to see you. Hope everybody's having their morning coffee or lunchtime coffee or whatever you like. I don't, I'm not here to judge. Do you? I am still a little congested, but feeling a lot better. Woke up this morning feeling more like myself. What's up, Mike S? Good to see you. And you guys are already sending in fun stuff. And I got a light little hump day topic for us. And also, hello, Renee. It's dinner time in Denmark. Right on. I guess that would make sense. It's like, I know in England it's like 8 hours ahead of me in the West Coast. All right, we're at 20. As soon as we hit 30, the show will officially begin. What's up, Frederick? Good afternoon to you. Still morning in my neck of the woods, where hopefully the air quality has improved. I know it's been a one step at a time journey, but hopefully the air quality has improved. Mr. Bezos getting subsidized again. New York needs to kick out Amazon. Yes, they do. But it's not going to happen. And we're actually going to talk about it some. But it's not going to happen. New Hampshire. Man, I have to go to Pennsylvania later this month. I'm really hoping it doesn't snow when I go up there. I'm a little nervous. Which, by the way, November 23rd, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tickets still available. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. We are at 30. Welcome to... that was a smooth intro. This is Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am Ron Placone. I am your host. This is the show where you guys send me ideas, you tweet me stuff, you put it in our Reddit subsection, and we go through the news together, and that's what we do here. And we started off with a question. So yesterday, I did something that I really, really love to do. I went to my local library. And here's the thing. I think I mentioned this on the stream. I live in Pasadena, and I was a member of just the Los Angeles library system. So I would just go to the LA library, because prior to living in Pasadena, I lived in a different neighborhood called Silver Lake. And it just never dawned on me that I had a local Pasadena library. I would always just go into LA, which is only like 15, 20 minutes away. But I would just go into LA to use the library. And it never hit me that it's like, wait a second, I have a library within walking distance that I can go to. So I got stoked when I realized that, and I joined the local library. And yesterday, I wanted to get a book because I just finished my book that I was working on. I'm always working on something. And I just finished my last book, which the last book I read was Peter Douche's book. An Inconvenient Douche by Twitter sensation Peter Douche. Very funny read. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I decided it was time for, I needed to get something else. And so I went to the library. First I went to reserve it on the system. And then I realized the library was still open for an hour and a half. So I just walked to the library and I got my book. And so I guess my question is, who still uses their local libraries? I'm one of those people. I still use mine all the frickin' time. I would drive further than I realized I had to when I realized I didn't have to do that. And yeah, I still use my library all the time. And I feel like that's more rare than maybe I realize. Because I know a lot of people, they don't use their library. They don't have a library card. And, man, I feel like you're really missing out. Libraries are... I used to move around a lot. I still do, I guess. But the first thing I would do in a new community when I would move there is I would get a library card. That would be my first thing. I would get my library card. Usually because I would have to print something at some point, and it was cheapest to do it at the library. But I also just wanted to have that point of reference. Like, that was kind of like the center, you know? So, and I guess walking back from the library, I realized just how amazing they are and how great they are. And what I did was I found the book on my own. Like, I didn't just ask the person to get it for me. Like, I looked up the card number and I figured out where the sections were. And I found it on my own because I was like, I need to familiarize myself with this library. Even though it's been here, it's still a new library to me because I was going into, Los Angeles instead of just using the library literally within walking distance from me. So I forced myself to learn the library. So let me see what you guys are saying. Chris says, libraries are fantastic, even though I don't use them much. The Indianapolis one has a 3D printer. That's pretty badass. Steve grew up in public libraries. Gotta admit, I haven't spent as much time there as I should in recent years. I can't find enough books on socialism at the library, then request them. You might hate snow, I do, but living in Florida and literally having only 1.5 seasons kills your soul. It's almost 86 here, and I complain about the damn sun constantly. I hate it. Meteorologist Mike, maybe that's because you're a meteorologist and you need variations in the weather because you're a meteorologist. I am not a meteorologist. The one season we have in Southern California suits me just fine. I like the fact that it's sunny all the time. I wouldn't change it for anything. I wish we got a little more rain, but outside of that, I have no complaints. I do not miss winter at all, not even a little bit. I'd be happy if I never saw another snowflake again in my life. I'm not saying I don't want it to happen. I do, because we need it, but you get my point. I despise winter. I never want to live in a place that has it ever again, and I hope I don't. But if I were a meteorologist, I'd probably want a little bit of variety. So I feel your pain, but I can't relate firsthand to it. I do not miss seasons at all. The only season I like is summer. Well, I like 2 seasons, summer and fall. And usually I get to travel to fall when it's happening, so I get to experience it. And then I come back to sunny California, where we have 2 seasons, jacket season and not jacket season. I like them both. Boom. Yeah. Jordan says he drove 6 hours to a concert in the snow yesterday and could do without winter. Yeah. I mean, I get it, seasons are important. I'm just saying my personal take as far as enjoyment goes. All right, let's hit the news. So this is from the Reddit. We're going to start over on the Reddit. And by the way, a lot of you guys are putting videos in the Reddit, which I can't really use. It's hard to play videos on this show, so I choose not to do it. So if you post a video on the Reddit subsection, I appreciate it, but I will not be able to use it. But this is from the Reddit subsection. Baltimore joins global movement, becoming the first major U.S. city to ban water privatization. Good on you, Baltimore. The global movement to stop privatization deals and expand public ownership just scored a huge victory in Baltimore, as residents voted overwhelmingly to ban putting their water in private hands. Maybe they called Flint and asked them what happens. Or maybe they called their neighbor, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my hometown, and asked them what happens. The water quality in Pittsburgh is terrible. They privatized the water system largely. On November 6, Baltimore became the first major U.S. city in the United States whose residents voted to ban water privatization. Nearly 77% of voters cast ballot in favor. This vote resulted from an ongoing struggle waged by Baltimore community activists, unions, and civic leaders demanding affordable access to water for low-income residents. The vote is also part of an emerging worldwide movement to fight back against privatization and to municipalize or remunicipalize local enterprises and services. And the results are out there. When you privatize water, it doesn't go well. Ask Pittsburgh, ask Flint. It does not go well. You know what else we should make public? We should remunicipalize the internet. Although I guess in many cases we're municipalizing it for the first time. But the internet, that's another one we should do. So good for Baltimore, and I hope other cities follow suit and ban privatizing their water supply. Look, you can't mess with water and you can't drink dollar bills. You just can't. You can't drink money, especially when it's money that doesn't leave the pocket of a CEO. So the fact that we're messing with water in this country is insane in and of itself. But then we're privatizing the water supply where these companies, these sleazy, third-party, shady companies, are cutting corners at the expense of the safety of your water. Good for Baltimore, but this should have happened in every city in the United States yesterday. So good for Baltimore, and hopefully the rest of the country follows suit. That is a little bit of good news. And now we head over to Congress. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez attends climate change protests during orientation. You guys probably saw some of this online yesterday. The progressive newcomer joined activists for a sit-in after arriving in Washington for congressional orientation. You know what? I think a sit-in with activists should be congressional orientation. Why don't we make that be the way it is? I think a sit-in for activists should be congressional orientation. I like that idea. There's Rick Scott probably saying something that's not true. He's probably lying about something. Trickle down. That's him. And here's some other show that, why would we bother watching this? All right. Congresswoman-elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has hit the ground running in Washington. The progressive Democratic newcomer from New York joined more than 100 environmental youth activists on Tuesday. Good for a sit-in inside House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's Capitol Hill office to encourage a deal to transition to a 100% renewable energy-based economy to fight climate change. Good. The demonstration took place the same day that newcomers to Congress, including Ocasio-Cortez, arrived for orientation. Well, that should be the orientation. Good for her. That should be the trend that she starts now. See these people? They're on my team. So we're here at your office, and we demand answers. Hello, colleague. You're going to have to deal with me. I ain't going nowhere. These people want me here, and that's why I'm here. And I don't report to you. I report to them. Good for her. Good for her. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it ought to be, and I hope it continues. I hope it continues. So, yeah. Good for AOC. And we are not doing enough when it comes to climate change. You know that. We talk about it here on the show. And it's kind of obvious to anyone that's noticing what's going on in the world. So, yeah, I think that's a good thing. And it is refreshing to see a member of Congress stay with the people and sit in with the people. And have that be their orientation instead of just, rubbing elbows with other Washington insiders. So good move. All right, let's see. Here's something else. I'm getting on the timeline here. Here's a question the New York Times poses. A $2 billion question. Did New York and Virginia overpay for Amazon? Here's a free answer. Yes. There you go. That was free. Can I get... All right. I'll tell you what, New York Times. $2 billion, that's pretty steep. I'll take $1 million for that answer. I gave it to you for free, but really, if you were offering $2 billion for that answer, I'll give it to you for free. Here's another answer. Ask Seattle. I bet Seattle's sitting up there going, $2 billion? Shit, we could have answered that for you. Yes, they did. Look at what Amazon did to our city. They ruined our city. Jeff Bezos ruined our frickin' city. People cannot afford to live here anymore. There is wealth disparity. Our schools have plummeted. Seattle could answer that question for you. Does it really cost $2 billion to fly to Seattle? I know it's not an easy destination to get to. It's kind of up in the corner. But New York Times, you guys have resources. I bet you could have found a deal. Did you fly Southwest? 2 bags fly free. 2 bags fly free on Southwest. I bet you could have found a cheaper than $2 billion flight. I bet you could have even stayed in a nice hotel. Could have gotten a nice dinner. I mean, it's kind of expensive up there, but it's not that unreasonable. You could have had a trip for less than $2 billion, and you could have been like, hey, did they over... And they've been, yeah, you did. You're screwed. It ain't going to go well. It ain't going to go well. I think that Amazon is a lot like the Sbarro pizza in the middle of Times Square. New York would be better off without it, but they should be able to handle it. All right, so let's go to this article that asked a question that I think could have been way cheaper than $2 billion. $2 billion, though. Did New York and Virginia overpay for Amazon? Yes, they did. We know the answer to that already. And honestly, all right, so here's Andrew Cuomo, that clown. He looked on as Mayor Bill de Blasio shook hands with Jeff Schroeder, an Amazon executive. The state will give the company more than $1.5 billion in incentive to locate an operation in Long Island City, Queens, and hire 25,000 workers. Amazon built a retail empire on low prices and free shipping. Yeah, we know. But its new headquarters... Okay. New York and Virginia collectively offered more than $2 billion in tax credits, rebates, and other incentives to attract the company. That figure doesn't include what could amount to hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure spending, worker training, and other government assistance. Economists have long criticized tax incentives as inefficient and unnecessary, arguing that they pit cities and states against each other. Indeed, in selecting New York and Virginia for its next locations, which I have a feeling they had this in the cards all along. I think they knew where they were going a long time ago. And this whole bidding war that a bunch of U.S. cities engaged in was just a show. I think it was just theater. And Jeff Bezos was probably looking on, laughing like Lex Luthor, while sitting in some chair. That's what I picture. That's exactly what I envision. All right, indeed. All right, so Maryland and New Jersey each offered multi-billion-dollar incentive packages that dwarf the ones Amazon accepted. An additional $7.5 billion in subsidies wasn't enough to get Amazon to move across the river, said Michael Farron, an economist at the Americas Center, a libertarian think tank, referring to the difference between Maryland's offer of $8.5 billion and Virginia's of less than $1 billion. It's because they already knew. It's because they knew they had the decision made. They knew where they were going. They didn't care. In its announcement on Tuesday, Amazon said that attracting top talent was a leading driver of its decisions. Incentives were one factor. New York's incentive factor... All right, so we're comparing... So where do they get into the meat of this question? Andrew Cuomo has some things to say. I don't give a shit what that guy has to say because he is a corporatist tool. Here's what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says. Amazon is a billion-dollar company. The idea that it will receive hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks at a time when our subway is crumbling and our communities need more investment, not less, is extremely concerning. On a per-job basis, the packages offered to Amazon are smaller than some previous mega deals. For example, Wisconsin last year offered the Taiwanese electronics manufacturer Foxconn $3 billion in incentives for a project meant to employ 13,000 workers. So you're comparing Wisconsin to New York. Okay. There are signs that Amazon may have been concerned about a similar reaction. The company didn't choose the biggest incentive packages on offer, and in an unusual move, it included details of the tax breaks in its first news release. Look, the city that gets this, which, well, now we know. I mean, New York and Virginia got it. It's not going to work out for them. I mean, all you need to do is look at Seattle. Look at Seattle. Look at what it did to Seattle. It will do the same thing. If anything, the one kind of silver lining is that in a place like New York is such a big city and such a hub and such a metropolis. Same with the D.C. area, that it will be able to absorb this and roll with it to some extent. Some neighborhoods will suffer. That's just the reality. But if Amazon would have went to a mid-sized city, they would have just been able to completely gut that city. I mean, Pittsburgh was fighting for it. Philly was fighting for it. Austin was fighting for it. If it would have went to any of those places, it would have just gutted those cities. So at least in a New York, it's a bigger place that can kind of withstand it. So, I mean, that's the one positive takeaway from the whole thing. But again, the $2 billion question, which we just answered for free, did they overpay? Yes. Yes, they overpaid. You know the appropriate price for Amazon to come into your city? $0. They should pay you. They should pay you because it does not benefit a community. All right. And guys, keep sending stuff. Fox News to file amicus brief in support of CNN's Jim Acosta lawsuit. Oh, boy. CNN filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump's White House Tuesday after it removed reporter Jim Acosta's press credentials. All right, Fox News, which frequently provides favorable coverage of President Donald Trump and his administration, is standing by CNN in its lawsuit over the White House removing reporter Jim Acosta's press credentials. You guys probably saw that bout of political theater where Jim Acosta and Donald Trump had a dueling temper tantrum. It was low-substance drivel at best. It presents the facade that Jim Acosta is some hard-hitting journalist. He's not. And that he's standing up to someone powerful, something he's also not doing. And this makes people entertain the idea that if you pick a member of the elite class, you are part of some kind of resistance. You're not. Trump is a bad guy. Jim Acosta, also a bad guy. At the end of the day, they're on the same team. If you think otherwise, I hate to break it to you, but you're naive. And in this, for instance, you're wrong. This idea that Trump is hurting the press somehow. No, the press loves Trump because he is helping their ratings. And Trump loves the press because he knows how to play them like a fiddle. It's not some dueling story. It's political theater. And at the end of the day, it's a frickin' love story. So in another act of political theater, Fox News is supporting CNN in its legal effort, which, you know what's probably going to happen here? They're just going to give Jim Acosta his press credential back. That's probably what's going to happen. And what the headline should have been a long time ago was when there was a White House press briefing and Donald Trump told all of the reporters in the room to turn off their cameras, and they all did. That should have been the headline. That every journalist in that room turned off their cameras when they were told to. And every single person in that room should have been fired that day. All of them. They should have been fired that day. Well, Ron, that's harsh. No, it's not. You just showed gross negligence on your job. A White House press secretary tells you to turn off your camera in a press room, in a press briefing, and you do it? You should have turned a second camera on. What are they going to do, arrest all of you? But no, just like sheep that are desperate for access and want nothing else, they turned their cameras off and said, yes, please, no problem. Please don't deny us our access. Because our employers aren't concerned with news and information. And we're supposed to entertain some idea that there's some big press freedom struggle going on between Trump and the media. What a joke. What a joke. There is a struggle for press freedom going on in this country. It's going on in the independent sphere, which is trying to be harmed in silence every day via overreaching censorship, via neo-McCarthyism. That's going on every day. Via algorithms. This idea that the corporate media and Trump are engaging in some kind of press freedom. How about our internet access? Without net neutrality, our internet freedom went down a couple levels. We covered that on this show. That's a struggle for news and information that's going on in this country. The struggle for American bureaus to be treated fairly, that's going on in this country. Journalists that get fired for telling the truth constantly, that's going on in this country. Donald Trump and Jim Acosta having a little tiff. Who gives a shit? Who cares? I'm a firm believer in freedom of the press, but I know political theater when I see it. And I'm not going to pick between two bad guys. So, good for Fox News, another act of political theater. And here's a follow-up on Amazon. This looks kind of interesting. The HQ2 scam. How Amazon used a bidding war to scrape cities' data. Interesting. All right. And this is by David Dan. The news of the lucky winners, quote unquote, New York and Virginia, exposes the bad faith of Amazon's much hyped search. All right, so let's get, this is just announcing that Amazon gave it to New York and Virginia. Over the past year, mayors and governors nationwide have fallen over themselves to offer cash bribes to Amazon to court its second headquarters, billed as a full equal to its Seattle home base. And that's Seattle how it worked out for them, by the way. 238 cities submitted bids, staffed with billions of dollars in government subsidies, and detailed plans how to accommodate Amazon. Practically every other multinational corporation in the world opened branch offices in other cities without fanfare. Google's offices in Berlin, London, and New York are not considered second or third headquarters. They're just regional offices. Headquarters 2 was supposed to bring 50,000 jobs and $5 billion in investment to the lucky winner. But then the New York Times story broke this week that Amazon will place offices in Crystal City, Virginia, home of the Pentagon, and Long Island City, New York. That means the promised jobs and investment will be cut in half. So it's pointing out that it's impossible for one company to have 2 headquarters. It's really impossible to have 3. These are just regional offices. So in other words, this was strategically planned, and this was an overstatement and just a lie. So here's where it gets into the scam part. The biggest suckers on headquarters 2 aren't New York and Virginia. It's the 236 cities that bid on a headquarters they were never going to get. Those bids didn't just include the size of the bribe. They included a wealth of important data about plans for transportation, housing, education, and workforce development. Amazon now has a treasure trove of non-public information about America's future, in addition to knowing how much cash cities are willing to part with to land an Amazon facility. And it got all that, along with a giant PR benefit from the bidding war, for free. Wow. I mean, this guy, Jeff Bezos, is... I mean, he is a Lex Luthor. Like, that's literally... He played this entire country, myself included, because I at least thought that the bidding war was genuine. I did think they were genuinely considering different cities. And they knew all along what they were going to do. And there were people that believed, and I said it out the gate, whatever city gets this, it ain't a good thing. It ain't a good thing for the city. But a lot of cities truly believe that it would benefit them. And I get it, you throw those big numbers around, it sounds great, but you really factor in what it truly costs a community. The way Amazon is a predator to a community. What it's done to Seattle. And the enormous amounts of incentives and money these cities were offering, they weren't going to get a return on that. And all along, he just wanted to get a bunch of data. I mean, how... That really is like a villain scheme. Like that's a scheme that you would expect to see in a comic book from some villain. We're going to trick them all into giving us all kinds of data about Americans' future. We're going to know all this information about these cities. What they don't know, we had the cities picked out all along. It's a comic book. Like, he knew all along where he was going to go. But he let these cities give him all this information, make him all these offers. Man, how did he keep a straight face? Jeff Bezos just played this entire country for suckers. And he's still going to be a celebrated figure. No one's going to talk. I mean, shows like this are going to talk about this. People that read David Dane's article. That was a good article. Thank you for sharing it. And there's still going to be a corporate media that's going to celebrate. That's going to celebrate Jeff Bezos. This comes from Jeffrey, my host in Austin. And this takes us over to Florida. Why is no one talking about the uncounted suppressed votes in Florida? America has a long history of voter suppression that it seems to be comfortable with as long as the veneer of democracy is in place. Florida is once again in an election debacle that is straining the bonds of credibility and democracy. Governor Rick Scott has actually called in the state police to investigate, quote, voter fraud. None was found. Then ordered the voting machines impounded in Broward County, all to protect his precarious lead in the U.S. Senate race. Keep in mind that voter fraud and election fraud are two very different things. Election fraud happens all the frickin' time. Voter fraud has happened before, sure, but is a very, very, very rare occurrence. It's when voters impersonate other voters. And it's usually just used as a boogeyman and a straw man because it hardly ever, if ever, happens. I'm not going to say it's never happened, but it is an outlier. It is not an actual issue. It's a fake right-wing issue. As acrimonious as the 2018 election in Florida has become, as the Republicans seek to discredit the recount, democracy's wound actually goes much deeper. The U.S. has consistently been comfortable with the veneer of democracy, the performance of an election, rather than the actual substance. Recounts, for example, can only capture those votes that manage to get into the ballot box. Yeah, how has Broward County gotten away with being... I mean, they're the people... They're consistently notorious. They were notorious in 2016. They're notorious this time around. They don't even know how many ballots are left to count. They don't even know. And let's keep in mind, do they have a history further back than that, Ron? Yes, they do. In 2000, they were the people that screwed everything up and ended up giving the election to George W. Bush. I mean, after 2000, we should have completely changed our... Like, completely... After 2000 happened, we should have been like, okay, Electoral College, gone. Paper ballots, mandatory. We are completely redoing this system, completely. That something like this should never happen, but they did nothing. Why? Because if the powers that be like the way the elections work out, and the donors like the way the election works out, well, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So to answer the question posed by The Guardian, why is no one talking about it? Well, because we're trained to just sort of let this stuff go. We're trained to ignore the people that are mysteriously kicked off the rolls, and we're supposed to believe that those provisional ballots are counted. And if you say otherwise, you're just a cynic or a conspiracy theorist. And Florida once again proves and the article correctly points out is voter suppression. Let's see if there's anything more here. So here's the last paragraph. I like this. Therefore, as the battle rages in Florida, with no one really talking about the consequences of an inability to count suppressed votes, the U.S. electoral system simply ambles along as if it's never seen anything like this before. while continuing to reward those who strip American citizens of their voting rights. If this continues, democracy will soon be a ghost, too. Powerful words. This is from Marcia. And this is from back in September, but it is it's relevant to what's going on now. Governor Brown signs a bill allowing utility companies to move fire-related costs to customers. So I wonder if anything is going on in lieu of the fire. This is from September that this happened. With an eye towards destructive wildfire as California's most immediate climate emergency, Governor Jerry Brown took action on Friday to broadly expand state prevention efforts while allowing utility companies to shift some fire-related costs to their customers. Excuse me. No, Fox, I don't want updates from you. No, thanks. The far-reaching proposal signed by Brown boosts government fire protection efforts by $1 billion over the next 5 years, providing funds that could help clear thousands of acres of dense, dry forest and brittle coastal brush. The bill's combination of cash and regulatory relief mark a major escalation in addressing what's been called the new normal of fire danger for the state, far beyond what's been spent on immediate emergency responses. Wildfires in California aren't going away, and we have to do everything possible to prevent them, the governor said in a written statement. The bill is complex and requires investment, but it's absolutely necessary. Negotiations over the details of the 100-page law dominated the state capitol during the final weeks of the legislative session. The proposal's fine points emerged just hours before the final vote on August 31st. While many lawmakers found part of the proposal unpalatable, few were willing to be seen as not having done everything they could to protect the lives and property of their constituents. There you go. So, you know, when it's a break for utility companies, they don't mind telling you need to pay more in taxes. But when it comes to something that helps poor people or healthcare, then how are we going to pay for that? There you have it. And someone shares this over in the Reddit. This is, you may have seen this in the news already. Security guard Jamel Robertson shot dead by police while holding a suspect at a Chicago bar. A police officer shot and killed a security guard at a suburban Chicago bar on Sunday. And now the guard's mother is suing police after witnesses said he subdued a gunman who opened fire at the club. Jamel Robertson, 26 years old, was pronounced dead shortly after being taken to a hospital following the shooting at Manny's Blue Room in Robbins, just south of Chicago. 4 others were shot and injured, including a man who police believe fired a gun before the police arrived. When police arrived at the scene, Mr. Robertson was holding somebody on the ground with his knee in his back, with his gun in his back. Everybody's screaming out, "He's a security guard." Mr. Robertson, a father of a 9-month-old boy, was licensed to carry a firearm. Charges were pending against the man who investigators believe fired the initial shots during a dispute. His name was not yet to be released, and he remained hospitalized. So, it looks like a good guy with a gun was killed. The guy was doing his job as a security guard and got shot and killed anyway. People were yelling out, "He's a security guard." Apparently that wasn't a helpful context clue. But of course, you know, they're protecting the anonymity of the police officer, and I'm sure they don't even know who allegedly fired the first shots, probably because the cops don't want to give anyone else up. At the very least, I hope this family gets a huge settlement. Unfortunately, that's the best you can hope for because the guy's dead. So that's the only thing you can hope for. And I hope they get a settlement so big that they never have to work another day in their lives. And that's literally the best we can hope for. So, guys, here's a little bit of happier news. Kind of a weird transition, but we'll do this since it's trending on Twitter. Today is National Pickle Day. Something a little lighter, you know. Sometimes when we do something heavy, like you know, a person gets shot dead while doing their job. You know, sometimes it's good to do something lighter. So National Pickle Day, a day where we celebrate the pickles in the world. I didn't know there was such a thing as National Pickle Day, but there is, and apparently it's today. I'd like to think this has something to do with the rise of the infamous cartoon Rick and Morty, and of course the legendary Pickle Rick, of which I am a big fan. But it is National Pickle Day. Get your pickle now. I like pickles. I'm more of a dill guy. I don't like the sweet and sour pickles. And I don't have any pickles at my house, so I don't know how I'll be celebrating National Pickle Day. But you know, regardless, I think it's a cool thing. And I'll go to the chat to end the show today. And then that's going to be it. So let me see what you guys are saying. Pickle Rick, the pickle lobby is too powerful. We must rein in Big Pickle. Some of you guys are giving some shout-outs for Pickle Rick. I do love pickles, I really do. Pam Ryan, killer cops have to go. Yes. Yes. Nathan points out an interesting point. Settlements should come from the officer's pension. I agree. I agree. Some of you guys are giving shout-outs for pickles. Let's see. PS Box Gamer, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. I appreciate that very much. Just a normal average guy, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. I appreciate that very much. Celeste, get some medicine, Ron, and feel better. Thank you. I'm feeling fine. I'm just a little congested. It happens. But I am feeling significantly better today. And, you know, it gets better throughout the day. The congestion does. And, you know, I'm taking a little bit of cold meds. I'm trying more to just stick to the vitamin C. You know, I took some NyQuil the other night, and it didn't really help me. It just kind of knocked me out. And I think it's because it's more of a physical congestion. It's not really totally science-related, so... Or sinus. I said science. sinus related. So I think that's part of what's going on. But thank you very much for that sentiment, and I do apologize that I am a little congested still, and I am struggling with that. But I'm doing the best I can. Kimchi, Pro Center recommends. Chris Wynn says, the people I'm forming a co-op with are sick of the Indiana DSA being more about protesting than real solutions. They don't run candidates or push policy. Does your DSA have that problem? I actually disagree with your assessment. I'm not in my local DSA, so I have no idea the answer to your question. I don't know. I'm not in my DSA. But I actually think protesting and taking up causes is a good thing. I can't speak specifically to your Indiana DSA, but looking at it more big picture, I think that protesting and taking up causes is better than only doing electoral politics. And one of the things I like about the DSA is the fact that they do different things like that. The fact that they're not just all involved with electoral politics. So, I don't know, man. Again, can't speak to your Indiana DSA, have no experience with it. I'm not involved with my local DSA, so can't speak to anything there. But I think that protests and causes and taking up those causes and building coalitions, I think those are good things. And I think that's really where we're going to see change. Protesting without solutions is vain. I agree with that, Tim, but I don't know that they don't have solutions. You know, I don't know. And I'd like to think they do. I think a lot of the stuff I've seen from the DSA, they do have solutions. So, Cappuccino Conservative, Maryland gets same-day voter registration. And I just like pickles. Let's see here. How do I feel about the IWW? Still, you know, I'm not crazy familiar with all the stuff you guys do, but please feel free to send me some stuff so I can read up on it. I'm very much pro-union, so, you know, but magnetic perturbation, send me some stuff. How do I get more fluent on, you know, all the things you guys got going on right now and all the things that, you know, you're doing? You know, I'm not totally familiar with everything. So let me know. Some of you guys are part of it. So yeah, let me know. I mean, obviously I'm pro-union, so, but as far as like super specifics in that camp, you know, I'm interested in learning more. Nikki Del Monte was shot and killed. This is all right. Was I tweeted anything? Let me see here. Well, I'll Google it. Nobody tweeted me anything. Oh yeah, this just happened. Cleveland reporter Nikki Del Monte died of multiple gunshot wounds. And they found her on... I guess she was found on Monday. That's really sad. Here, let's look at this real quick before we sign off. A highly regarded young reporter in Cleveland, Nikki Del Monte, who was found dead with her uncle, died of multiple gunshot wounds. So that's the development here. her uncle was found to have died of a single gunshot wound. They found the two bodies Monday morning after Nikki Del Monte's mother reported her missing and drove to the scene. So her daughter's car was parked outside the trailer with her phone and wallet still inside. Del Monte was only 30 years old. She had only recently gotten in touch with her uncle on her father's side after losing touch with him when her parents divorced. Del Monte planned to watch a football game with her uncle at a bar, but she never came home. Wow. I mean, I don't know much about her reporting. I mean, I know the name, and that's really sad. Based on the report, it sounds like a murder-suicide. He only died of one gunshot wound. She had a couple. I mean, that's what it sounds like on the surface. Maybe some of you guys know more about it than I do. But in typical Get Your News On with Ron fashion, I am seeing all this for the first time. But that's really sad. Only 30 years old. And let's see. All right, guys, we are totally out of time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. You guys know the drill here. If you want to follow us on the sustainability end, patreon.com/RonPlacone. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive perks, including free tickets to my shows and my album, which is out now, and it's posted to the Patreons. Agnostic Holiday, it's out now. It's my album. I really want you to hear it. If you're not a patron, you can totally get it on iTunes. Agnostic Holiday. You can get it. You can find the link over on my Twitter. Check it out, please. RonPlacone.com for tour dates. January, we're coming to Florida. Gainesville, Orlando, Jacksonville, Miami. Coming to ya in January. Get tickets at RonPlacone.com. March 13th, New Orleans, Louisiana. Tickets for that will be available real soon. March 12th, we're going to be in Pensacola. Tickets for that available real soon as well. And, of course, coming up, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, November 23rd. Can't wait to see you in my hometown. And Los Angeles, November 29th, is my album release party at the Sycamore Tavern upstairs at the Dojo. That's at 8 p.m., and there's going to be free cake. I love you all very much. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.